It has been a very busy week indeed for King Charles III. The first full rehearsal of the coronation procession has occurred in the middle of the night, involving the horses, the carriages, and the military personnel who are forced to stay up way past their bedtime. Meanwhile, it looks like the king and his wife Queen Camilla need to figure out how they can find the time to practice their little bit of the big day using the model of Westminster Abbey that has been jerry-rigged inside the Buckingham Palace ballroom, considering that so far they have only managed to fit in one single run-through. So the king probably doesn't have a whole lot of time to flip through the pages of the royal history books, but he should probably be doing exactly that. Because if there is one important thing that a rookie sovereign can learn, along with don't mess with the French and watch out for gout, it is this: beware of your idiot kinfolk. The history of the British monarchy is absolutely filled with grasping brothers and sisters and uncles and cousins who were up to no good and caused a lot of trouble for even the best industrious sovereigns. And what about Charles? Well, he is facing this very special regal headache if only somebody could point it out to him. In recent weeks, His Majesty has been busy accepting bits of what the Vatican says is the true cross, a gift from Pope Francis, and also trying to figure out why Queen Camilla is bothering to dust off the ivory for her part in the coronation. But there is a much more dangerous issue that has been ignored. And of course, I'm talking about his idiotic kinfolk, especially Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, and great friend of the dead sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. And then how about his son Prince Harry, who is probably the #1 source of web traffic for www.republic.org.uk, all the way from Montecito. It seems like trouble follows those two wherever they go, but somehow both of them are still part of the royal fabric. So how much longer can these two sources of headaches be allowed to just go on and on unresolved? Both men are like a couple of self-pitying volcanoes. They're erupting constantly, and then the palace has to clean up the mess. And then maybe they'll temporarily take a few steps out of public view, but then they start the whole process up again before too long. And this is a problem that has been accidentally brought to the forefront by another prince, Edward, a man who hasn't done a single thing to earn a headline in his own right in at least a few decades. Last month, Charles finally gave Edward what we assume to be his due. I'm talking about his late father, Prince Philip's dukedom of Edinburgh, of course. This title upgrade has in turn necessitated that the royal family's webmaster put down their can of energy drink and finally update the official website, including the page that lists the counselors of state. But it is not Edward who is the problem on the page, but who else is listed on that page. There are 7 members of the royal family who can be officially called upon to perform many of the duties of the king, and 3 are actually non-working members of the royal family. Included on that list is a man who is facing a civil sex abuse case, a man who now makes his career out of sharing his trauma with paying audiences and going on and on about how difficult palace life was, and also a woman who is most famous for wearing a really ugly hat. I mean, really, this list is like an example of the kind of people you should avoid at a dinner party, and they are not suitable candidates to ever fulfill some of the functions of the head of state. Come on. Having Harry and Andrew and Beatrice as possible regal understudies does not make any sense. George I originally came from Hanover, and he founded what we now call the House of Windsor. Boy, he must be proud right now, huh? Now, before anybody starts putting their hands up in the back row, I understand. Last year, Charles did request Parliament to pass a new bill to extend the list of counselors of state. And we understand why he did this. He needed more people than just Princess Anne and Edward who he would actually call upon. So he made sure that in reality, Andrew and Harry and Beatrice will probably never be called upon to act as kingly stand-ins. But still, it is not a good look. I mean, think about it. This unemployed golf addict, a sloany girl about town, and a man who allegedly makes podcasts for a living, the fact that they could ever be left in charge and may be able to sign government documents or receive new ambassadors is terrifying. These 3 currently sit at the 5th and 8th and 9th positions in the line of succession, and the fact that they hold these official positions that are this important, even if they'll probably never have to use those positions, is really the epitome of everything that critics say is wrong with the monarchy. Because really, why should these people who are totally unqualified, they're unelected, and they're really not very appealing, why should they be given the right to hold these roles? That they could even theoretically be chosen to open parliament or sign official documents or hold privy council meetings is wrong. Now, at the time, adding Anne and Edward to that list was seen as a diplomatic move by the king, a way of making sure that Prince, oh, I'm just watching my 6 hour of golf Andrew, and also Harry would never be called upon to act in this capacity, while also not hurting any of their feelings. They can be very sensitive after all. But looking back, maybe that wasn't the best way to deal with the problem. Maybe that was really just like putting a band-aid on it. Charles's number one job as king, along with slapping his royal warrant on pots of marmalade and keeping the souvenir industry afloat, is to protect the monarchy at all costs. And right now, it looks like the two biggest threats to the institution's health and well-being are members of his own family. People have fond memories of the late Queen, of course, but still, her final years were really affected by the way that she handled these errant dukes. She let Andrew dodge legal servers by staying at her Scottish estate, and then for months waged an only going to end in catastrophe legal fight against Virginia Giuffre's sex abuse case. Now, he finally agreed to settle back in February of 2022, and reportedly, Her late Majesty paid millions and millions to settle the case. But still, she thought it was appropriate to allow him to try to repeatedly weasel his way back into public life even after that, most noticeably for the Thanksgiving service that was held for Prince Philip at Westminster Abbey. And then, of course, there are the morons of Montecito, Harry and Meghan. And Harry has been mostly left unchecked by the palace, as he and Meghan have spent the last 2 years telling anybody with an ear what a horrible bunch of people the royal family really is. In both cases, the late Queen sought short-term solutions and quick fixes to try and make these messy situations go away. She just wanted to get this stuff out of the headlines as fast as possible. In the future, over the next months and years, after the high of the coronation is all over, and we've all forgotten how much trouble the king had just trying to find some people to perform at that concert, we are going to be in new royal waters. So will he be able to act as the unifying figure of nationhood that he's supposed to be? Or will he just go off on these tangents, like trying to save British hedgerows or lobbying Downing Street to put homeopathic remedies on the National Health Service? Will he be able to maintain the level of support for the royal family in an age where inherited, unearned privilege is very much public enemy number one, where institutions of power are being held to account on a daily basis? I mean, how can Charles ever even think about this task while the Andrew and Harry situations are still unresolved and continuing thorns on his side? It's a long way of saying that the king cannot afford for Andrew or Harry and their ever-resilient egos and deep reservoirs of grievance to continue wreaking havoc. And I'm sorry, but as long as the 8 words the Duke of York and the Duke of Sussex are still up there on the royal website as councillors of state, His Majesty is putting his reign, and really the monarchy as a whole, in jeopardy. And while Beatrice is certainly not in the same league as those two, still, does she really belong on that list?